Hi Arrows, I'm Kashawn and you are watching The Book Archer. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 ways that you can get more reading done, how to fit more reading into your day, your week, your month. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Tip number 1 to get more reading done. Always keep a book on you. This is like one of the easiest ways to fit in more reading, because just with the daily life, you never know when you're going to have some downtime. Maybe you show up somewhere and the other person is running late. Maybe you get somewhere and you're stuck in a long line. Why not pull out a book and read? I know there are lots of times when I go to the movies and the ticket line, well, usually I just purchase my tickets ahead of time now. End up somewhere where there's a long line and the first thing I do is like, oh, I'm gonna read my book. Or I like to show up to places early, so I might get 5 or 10 minutes in of reading. But that little bit of extra time really does add up. It's better to be waiting and pull out a book than to have to just scroll mindlessly on your phone. So just always keep a book on you. It's just an easy way to fit in a few extra minutes in all the nooks and crannies of the day. So that's one of the easiest and most effective ways to get more reading done. Tip number 2 is to schedule your reading or have a reading routine. There are certain things that you do like around the same time every day or every week. For pretty much you kind of know your schedule. You know what time you get out of school, you know what time you eat dinner, you know what time you get off of work for the most part. So you kind of know when you will and won't have free time. And even if it's just like a specific day of the week where you're like, listen, on Thursday nights I read, just like the same way where you know if like a show you really like comes on one day of the week, you know for that 30 minutes or that hour, that is your time to watch that show. So why not do the same thing for your reading? Not only that, it gives you something to look forward to. I know a lot of times if I'm having like a crazy busy week or a crazy busy day, I already know like wait until Thursday, I'm about to read this whole book. My time is blocked off and then people know like, oh, this is her reading time. Or you can, like I said, have a reading routine. Like for me personally, I always read in the morning and I always read right before I'm going to bed. So those are the main times where I'll have like a physical book in my hand. I make sure that I read during those times. I always read when I'm taking a bath. My bath times are like, it's like my favorite part of my self-care routine. I take like a nice spa type of bath on Sundays, and I already know like on Sunday I'm gonna get some good reading in. That's a lot of times when I'm either like when I'm usually finishing books. I always seem to finish books when I'm in the bath, but I love it. It's so relaxing. I'm already doing self-care, but then I'm also doing something else that I enjoy, so I really love doing that. So schedule your reading or have a reading routine. A lot of times I know people will group their reading with an unpleasant activity. For example, going to the DMV. Nobody likes to go to the DMV or the financial aid office if you're a college student. Like, there's nothing worse than having to go to financial aid or having to go to the DMV. So those are always times where you can have a book because you're just going to be waiting for a long time anyway. That one kind of goes with the first and the second one. Tip number 3 is to read more than one book at a time. Now, I know what you're thinking, okay, I can't read more than one book at a time. I can't really follow the stories, which is a problem that I used to have. The way that I resolve that is I will read 2 books from 2 totally different genres at the same time. Meaning I'll read like a fantasy book at the same time that I'm reading a nonfiction biography. Or what I'll do is take it a step further. I'll listen to an audiobook that's contemporary, then I'll physically read a fantasy book. So not only is it 2 different types of books, it's 2 different formats. So then that way the stories don't ever feel intermingled and I can follow them both. And I can do this like with 2 different books on the same day. So I might be listening to an audiobook on the way to work and it's one thing, and then when I get on my lunch break I might be physically reading something else. So that's just a way, if you read more than one book at a time, you can basically finish 2 books in the time that you would finish 1 book. And I think that it's really fun to read 2 books because whenever you want to take a break from one story, you can kind of jump to another story. Number 4 is buddy read. Whenever you're reading a book with someone else, it makes it so much easier to continue to want to pick that book up, to be motivated to read it, because you have someone to talk about it with in real time. When you're like, yo, did you get to chapter 7 yet? And they haven't gotten to chapter 7 yet, they're motivated to keep on going. Or if you know, hey, we said we're going to finish this book by the end of the month and talk about it, if the time is going by, then you're like, oh, I'm going to finish this book. Not only that, but I think it's really fun to buddy read. I always enjoy it. It's just something about making literature a shared experience that's really, really fun. And if you make a whole TBR pile and one of those books is a buddy read, the likelihood of you getting to like the buddy read is so much higher than whatever else you put on your TBR. So that's a really quick, easy, and fun way to get through a book, especially if it's a larger book or a book that you feel like is a bigger task. When you're reading with someone else that can kind of be a soundboard, I'm telling y'all, it's such a good way to get some more reading done. The 5th and final tip is to pay attention to your mood. I'm a mood reader and I have reading moods, and I really feel like you enjoy your reading and your books more when they kind of go along with whatever you're in the mood to read. So just because something just came out and everybody's reading it, if you're in the mood to read something else, then do it. If a book pops in your head and you're like, man, that's been on my shelf for a long time, I've been meaning to pick that up, but I haven't. While you're thinking about it, do it. It's so much easier to continue to want to stay in the story, to continue to want to read that book if you are in the mood for it. And not only that, but I really feel like when you read whatever you're in the mood to read, it automatically increases the enjoyment of the book. And I feel like the actual reading experience, or a reading experience, is a really big component in whether you enjoy a novel or not, or how you receive it. Pay attention to your mood. Like if you just read an epic fantasy and you got like a book hangover from it, you might not want to pick something else up similar right away. If you're going through something in your daily life and it's really bringing your mood down, then you might not want to read like a heart-wrenching contemporary. Read something that's a little bit more lighthearted, or something that just kind of like takes your mind off of that. You might want to read, I don't know, self-help, self-improvement. Or if you have something coming up, for example, if you're going on vacation or you have a road trip coming up, then those are the best times to read road trip books. Just follow like themes like that are in your life, so that it can kind of like relate back to the reading and you'll be more interested in it. I know when India was getting married, she was reading like wedding related books and novels because she was going through that experience at the same time. So I'm sure it resonated a lot differently than it would have if she wasn't going through that entire process. So those are quick 5 tips on how to get more reading done in your daily life. What are y'all's tips, tricks, and hacks to get more reading done? My favorite ones are definitely listening to audiobooks when I can't be reading a physical book, and I love to read on my lunch break because it's specifically, I know that's at least like 1 hour of reading a day. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at theBookArcher, and I will see you guys in another video tomorrow. Bye.